Hi, folks. We're Tassless today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about movie posters, or I guess movies, but in particular the promo posters that are used for movies, looking back to say, going as far back as the 1960s, 70s, up to the present day. Now, what sort of got me onto this was I was looking at I think it was one of the Marvel action hero type thing from about 20 years ago, and there were 9 characters shown on the poster. 8 of them were straight white males, and there was one female who was kind of really the love interest, and she was the hot chick in the sexy outfit, that sort of thing. Now, looking at the same poster today to promote the certainly the most recent movie. So remember there are 8, 12, 88, 89, 90% effectively of the characters are men, and straight white men at that. And this is not long ago. It's within the lifetime of most people. But today there are 13 characters and only three straight white males. Gee, where did the others go? 4 are black males. Wow, that's a big change. 1 Hispanic and 5 of the total are female. There's a mixture of 3 black, 2 white females there. So this is a huge turnaround. Now, at the same time as we've seen the increasing representation of people that were never in these comics or movies. So this has been forced diversity. The viewing public weren't. Nobody was asking for it except the radical leftist activists that want to socially engineer white people out of existence. But there was no requirement for it. It's been forced in. But at the same time as they were forcing this diversity in, the numbers were dropping off as the theoretical viewing size of the public was increasing. If you look at the share and proportion of the increasing population, the number of people that were turning, old enough to go to the movies, they were already on a downhill trajectory, and it's just really increased, and the pace of it has quickened when you look at the loss of viewership on these things. Now, again, at the same time as the diversity is being forced in, the graphics and just the green screen capability and all this sort of stuff, the 3D imaging was really going through the stratosphere. So there was a whole lot more gadgets and kits that could be shown on screen, which and some of it was very impressive too, the visuals and the sound and so on. This was pretty impressive stuff from a techno gadgetry visual point of view, but the scripts were getting worse, the acting was getting worse, and this forced representation, the girl boss thing, the pushing of black characters in there, was just causing a sharp decline. I remember watching this was in, I don't know, the late 90s. Remember there was a movie on at the theatre just near a hotel I was staying at, and this was a pretty upmarket neighbourhood, so I expected a pretty upmarket sort of audience, which I don't think there was a single black person in the cinema watching it. And there was a Star Trek convention at a convention hall that was, again, just around the corner from this hotel I was staying at. I think it was Boston, and all the Trekkies and all this sort of thing, and they were all very serious about it. And this again was more than 25 years ago that I first came across it, and it was 99% men, males. I don't know, maybe they were all, some were gay, I don't know, but they were very much focused on the Trekkie thing. There was a few chicks there, but it was nearly all guys. And so where was this audience that the studios were chasing? Now, on one side, you can say the studios was, the numbers and viewership numbers relative basis were declining anyway. So we had to do something to try and find an additional or new audience. Okay, we fucked up royally in doing it. We went all ideological, hysterical in chasing this imaginary new audience, but kind of numbers were going downhill as it was. And what could we do to change it? We put heavier marketing budgets, and we'd thrown cash around, and it wasn't really arresting the decline, or certainly wasn't bringing in putting new bums on seats. And they were obviously miscalculating all round, thinking that this new audience existed, assuming that was even their intention. Was their intention to socially re-engineer society? There's a lot of evidence to suggest that was their focus, and nothing to do with chasing and trying to acquire a new audience. But nonetheless, so if I look at the 1960s movie promo posters, I didn't see a single one that wasn't straight white males. Now you could say, well, hey, Buddy, Rock Hudson was gay, so what's you think? Well, but they were presumed to be straight white males, and were playing the part of straight white males. So you look at that. There were women featured on these movie posters, but again, they were the sort of the love interest, and some of them were quite big names back in the day, in actresses and so on. So they were still getting quite a bit of billing, but it wasn't as the girl boss or the boss chick, or she wasn't there just to show how horrible and evil straight white males were. It was a love interest. It was romance. Typically it began sort of the rocky beginning to the romance, then falling in love and this sort of stuff. And that was tended to be the format of the day. Then there was the odd movie, like say the early Shaft movie. I think it was Richard Roundtree played in that. Terribly acted and scripted, by the way. And there were Sidney Poitier in the heat of the night. There were a few of those, but gee, they were rare. But then it started to change. By the 90s, you could see there was a shift. I'm not just talking the movies where the boss chick was a plausible character in the plot and the storyline, like say Ripley in Alien. I thought that was a little bit, didn't quite work for me, but it was good enough. Sigourney Weaver could carry it. She's like a 6 foot tall chick, and she's got the whole. She can present it. She's not the classic sort of thing that they shove in with the 5 foot 1 inch tall chick that weighs 100 pounds, who goes around kicking the shit out of 300 pound muscled up dudes. It wasn't that. She did look plausible in that role, I thought. But unlike say in The Silence of the Lambs and that lesbian Jodie chick, that was like a vehicle for her to put those straight white men in their place. So you could already see that attitude to social engineering and boss chick, girl boss sort of type stuff. She's way smarter than all the guys, that type of thing. They didn't need to do that, but they were determined. You can see this absolute rabid determination to socially engineer things rather than to just write a good story. Maybe the Jodie Foster. So I was thinking maybe the Jodie Foster could have been an expert research assistant whose research was vital to the catching of the criminal. So they could have done 100 ways, but instead went down the girl boss thing who puts the men in their place. That was never the way to go. It never really worked. Anthony Hopkins carried that movie, I think. But then you carry on through the posters, and you can see this evolution through the posters. Just look at the posters, and you can watch the evolution taking place. So now straight white men, as portrayed in the movies, have now become the minority, and black people, just non-white people, minority groups, the proverbial black lesbian, girl boss, chicks, all that sort of stuff has come in. And so you can see it's there writ large right in front of you. Just look at the posters and you can see how it was a plan of how can we piss off and lose our audience, which is what they've done. And there were other things running on, like streaming services. So there are other factors and variables in the whole thing. But nonetheless, why would you piss off your audiences so thoroughly and with such determination, grim determination? This is pissing off your audiences, yet you continue with it. If anything, double down on it. And again, if you look at those posters, those movie posters over that 50, 60 years, you can see it happening right in front of you. You've been with Tassos today, your Pushback channel, and thank you for listening.